What's up? What's up? What's up, y'all? I have a full show for you tonight. We've got a lot to talk about. Nancy Grace could face Nolan Wells' friends in court. Also, Nolan Wells' mother has not turned in the phone to authorities. And Officer Tatum is back on Horn Island. And what the friends are telling him is quite shocking. I'm Tamera. You're watching the Tamera Nealy Show. I would like to welcome back all my returning subscribers. And if you're new here, I would like to let you know I'm happy you're here. Now, quickly before we get into this, let's get into a word of prayer, because on this show, we believe that prayer is our first resort and not our last. Lord, I thank you for today. Lord, I pray for each and every person watching this video. Lord, I thank you just for the truth coming out in this case. Lord, I ask you to protect everyone involved. In Jesus' name, amen. All right, y'all. So we have a lot to talk about tonight. How was everyone's weekend? First of all, I'm happy to be back with you. If you haven't seen already, I posted a video earlier today, y'all. That video was crazy. Apparently, some Black people went into a restaurant and was smelling like weed. Then one of them went in the restroom and started allegedly smoking weed. The manager kicked him out, or not even kicked her out. She just said, "Hey, we're not going to serve you more alcohol." And she was very upset. Whole ordeal. Make sure y'all go check out that video. And let's get into today's topic. Now, when it comes to Nolan Wells' case, there have been quite a few people covering it. I've been covering it. Officer Tatum has been covering it. I mean, you name it. Everybody's been talking about this case. Well, some people have been lying about this case. Some people haven't been acting so carefully. And because of that, certain people have been threatened, doxxed, harassed, and even kicked out of restaurants. Now, most of you know who I'm talking about. I'm talking about Nolan Wells' friends, and there's a reason why this has been happening to them. Now, one person who has been all over this case has been Nancy Grace. Nancy Grace has had a lot to say about this case, which I don't have a problem with people having a lot to say about the case, because I myself have been covering it. However, Nolan Wells' friend's lawyer clearly sees an issue with what Nancy Grace has been saying. Now, we're going to get into a quick recap of what she has said thus far. And then I want to show you this article and some bombshell updates regarding Nancy Grace and this case, because this has taken an unexpected turn. Now, I knew the lawyers would eventually come after people like Ben Crump, but I was not expecting Nancy Grace. Let's get into it. Even though, obviously, I'm sure you guys may have been expecting it, because we all know what Nancy's been saying. But anyways, let's go.
Did we just hear? What was that? One more time, please.
Detail assistance, Vicky speaking. How can I help you?
Hey, we're at the west tip of Horn, and our village pump stopped working. We're sinking. Can y'all please come? We have a membership.
All right, of course. How far is the work coming up, sir? Can you give me a description? Ankles?
What'd
Hello?
you say? Hey,
Yes. How far is the water coming up, sir?
it's coming up. We're just sinking. I don't know. Like we're going down.
Straight out to investigative reporter Crime Stories, Dave Mack. Did you just hear what I heard? Now, this has been transcribed, and this is the CTO dispatch call. Because, Dave, when I first heard this, I thought, has this been doctored? Is this real? Where's this coming from, Dave?
Nancy, this is coming from from Mississippi, from the actual official. Okay, when we get into the Mississippi Fish and Wildlife and at the reserve, putting this out for the public.
Breaking news tonight.
Now, her staff goes on to explain that this is coming out from the officials, and they basically, I guess they say, enhance some of the audio. Well, as you guys know, Nolan Wells' friends have come out and said multiple times that they were not on the island. They had left the island before Nolan Wells came up missing. TMZ reported that Nolan Wells was seen after the friends left the island. So why would Nancy still air this in the way she did? Now, you can air it, but at least add some context. No, Nancy continued to push speculation that the boys were involved, that the young men were involved in Nolan's death. And that has put a target on them. Now, here's another clip of Nancy talking to Officer Tatum about this, I believe.
In the Nolan Wells investigation, enhanced distress call audio bombshell.
Detail assistance, Vicky speaking. How can I help you?
Hey, we're at the west tip of Horn, and our bilge pump stopped working. We're sinking. Can y'all please come? We have a membership.
All right, of course. How far is the water coming up, sir? Can you give me a description? Ankles? Hello?
What'd you say? Hey,
Yes, how far is the water coming up, sir?
it's coming up. We're just sinking. I don't know. Like we're going down now.
What did we just hear? What was that? One more time, please.
She plays it again. I mean, she wants to make sure you hear this, so she's got to play it multiple times. Now, one thing that we've learned after doing a little bit of research and just making, common sense observations, when you put words on a screen and you say, hey, do you hear this? People are naturally going to start trying to figure out if they hear it. They're going to naturally start hearing it because that's just how our brains work. Okay. And so I believe Nancy knows what she's doing here. And it's unfortunate because so many of Nancy's audience have come to trust her. And we know that the tensions are high. We know that people are making this case about race, are putting a target on young people's backs. So I don't understand the incentive here. I don't understand why Nancy is doing this.
Detail assistance, Vicky speaking. How can I help you?
Hey, we're at the west tip of Horn, and our bilge pump stopped working. We're sinking. Can y'all please come? We have a membership.
All right, of course. How far is the water coming up, sir? Can you give me a description? Ankles? Hello?
What'd you say? Hey,
Yes, how far is the water coming up, sir?
it's coming up. We're just sinking. I don't know. Like we're going down now.
Straight out to investigative reporter Crime Stories, Dave Mack. Did you just hear what I heard? Now, this has been transcribed, and this is the CTO dispatch call. Because, Dave, when I first heard this, I thought, has this been doctored? Is this real? Where's this coming from, Dave?
Nancy, this is coming from the.
Okay, maybe I added that twice now that I'm thinking about it. Because I'm pretty sure we heard that. I want to get to where she talks to Officer Tatum. Let's go.
It's an innocent explanation. My mind is open. And that innocent explanation would be what?
I mean, the bilge pump is damaged. They could have been saying, don't die, or is it dead, referring to the bilge pump or the bilge pump. And they could have been talking about a battery. They could have been saying no, and people think they said Nolan.
Play the audio for the witnesses that were on the boat. Play it for them separately, individually, and ask them to corroborate what they're saying.
Dave Mack, Crime Stories investigative reporter, was the version that we are playing tonight altered in any way by the Crime Stories staff?
When you ask, did we edit or alter? No. We merely enhanced it using basic tools that are used in every production department around the world.
Dave Mack, I believe
Correct.
the correct answer would be HELLNO.
You know, obviously before.
So as you can see there, Nancy Grace has decided to double down on it. Now, what she does is up to her. This is a free country. You can do what you want. but sometimes there's consequences for actions, and clearly the young man's lawyer sees an issue with this, and you guys are going to hear from him later where he really doubles down on the fact that he's coming after some people. Now, I was doing a little bit of research earlier today as I was preparing for today's conversation with you all, and I came across this video from the local Tennessee news. And I want you all to check this out, and then let's get into some more of the latest.
Friends of Nolan Wells, who mysteriously died after a boating trip, say they want to investigate for themselves. That's according to attorneys for Warren Hudson, Jack Spatalo, and Morgan Seymour. The attorneys say the three want to visit Horn Island off the Mississippi coast. That's where Nolan Wells' body was discovered 2 days after that deadly 4th of July boating trip. It's possible the three are the same people who were with Wells that day. Attorneys for the three say they had nothing to do with Nolan's death and want to learn the truth of what exactly happened. An independent autopsy says the cause of Wells' death is undetermined. The county coroner says he found no obvious signs of foul play.
New details into the Nolan Wells death.
I'm still hearing it. All right. So my question is, if the young man really had something to do with their friend's death, why would they be doing all of this? Why would they go back to Horn Island to do their own investigation? Why would Warren's father offer $50,000 to figure out what happened to Nolan Wells? Why would they be going out of their way like this? If they really did it, don't y'all think they would actually be trying to hide? They would be full of shame. They would be like, you know what? I don't want to even be seen. I don't want to be heard because I don't want to implicate myself. I don't want people really seeing what I did. That makes more sense to me. But what they're actually doing is they're saying, no, we're willing to answer the questions. We're totally innocent. So when you see people like Nancy Grace coming out and doing what she's doing and saying what she's saying, it's like, why are you doing that when you know good and well that these young men are fighting so hard to clear their name? They are fighting so hard. Check out this article. It says attorneys for three teens visit Horn Island, vow defamation suits in Nolan Wells case. Now, their attorney went out to the island today. This is a picture of their attorney. And there's two attorneys. One is attorney Edward. Sorry, there's a lot of ads on this particular Sun Herald article, but you all can kind of see their pictures here. Pictured is attorney Edward, and then also there is Tyler Cox at Horn Island. Those are the attorneys who are on Nolan Wells' friend's case. And as we covered last week, these are the best of the best. They are at least one of them is President Trump's personal defamation lawyer who has helped him win big time against major networks in the past. And I looked through this article, and what stood out to me is the attorney says that he is pursuing defamation lawsuits against individuals. And let me read a little bit more here. Now, where do I want to start? Because I want to point out to you all where I see him bring up two individuals. We'll just start here. The attorney said they plan to pursue defamation lawsuits against people they allege shared libelous and slanderous statements about Hudson and then his friends as well in connection with Wells' death. In a joint statement, the attorney said they are proud to stand with and fight for the three teens who have denied any wrongdoing in connection with Wells' death. Notice they said any wrongdoing. Now, that any is going to come into play later on, because when I watched Officer Tatum interview the young men again. And this time he brought one of their attorneys. And in that interview, I was shocked by the way the attorney doubles down. We'll get to that later. If you're watching the replay, make sure you check out the video on that. All right. Anyway, so it says here, starting today, those who wish to continue attacking and lies about these good Ocean Spring young men will be held accountable to the maximum extent of the law, the attorney said. We, on the other hand, will be focused solely on the truth, which is that these innocent young men had nothing whatsoever to do with tragic death of Nolan Wells. As part of their work, the attorney said they are combing through all the disgraceful mainstream media coverage and social media divul thus far. All right? So that means they're coming after everybody. Now, you may be wondering, where does Nancy Grace come into this? Tamera, why would you bring up Nancy Grace tonight? Well, I'm going to get to that because there's some context clues throughout this article, but more information has been revealed. They also say, I guarantee you, we will find every single defamatory remark made about Warren, Jax, and Morgan. We will then hold the offenders accountable, big or small, national or local, libel or slander. And here we go. It says here, we have identified 2 individuals. Now, we know who number 1 is. We covered number 1 last week. And I'm pretty sure number 1 is Ben Crump. Now, that's allegedly, but I'm pretty darn sure that Ben Crump is number 1. What do y'all think? Now, you may remember me showing you all that video of Ben Crump saying, we're not buying into distractions. It's a distraction. It's a distraction. Well, this is one distraction, quote unquote distraction, that you may want to start paying attention to, Ben Crump, because it seems like you're going to be paying up soon. The Sun Herald spoke Friday with both attorneys during the trip to the island. Tyler and I have been working tirelessly to identify specific offenders who have, as a matter of law, defamed Warren, Jackson, Morgan. I can tell you that we have identified 2 individuals, he said. I can only tell you that they are 2 individuals who will be very recognizable. I can tell you at this point, we're talking about individuals rather than entities. Well, who are these individuals that he could be talking about? Well, it could be Nancy Grace. It could be Don Lemon. That's a possibility too. But I have a feeling it's more than likely Nancy. I think she might be the second individual. One of his lawyers went on to say they couldn't immediately identify the individuals for security reasons, legal reasons, a lot of reasons, but said the list will grow. The attorneys plan to start drafting the lawsuit, and it says dang near immediately. Now, I replaced that dang that I just said was replacing another word. Okay. You all can read the screen, but I'm not going to say it on this channel because there are little ears who watch my channel sometimes. And so we got to protect the children. They don't need to hear language like that. Anyways, and adults too, I will say. But anyways, even though some context clues were laid here, more information is about to come out because I did a little bit more research. I did a little bit more digging. But let's finish this. As how social media has changed the landscape for defamatory statements, one of the lawyers said the changes have been significant. In the day before social media was a thing, I would say when there was a defamatory statement, it would spread like a fire, right? Like just a good old fire. And then he goes on to say basically with social media, it's accelerated. Now, then the article goes on to provide more context, but I want to get to something else. because yes, they did say that they can't necessarily say who they're talking about, but someone else can say and has spoken up and has given us valuable information regarding this situation. Now, some of you are aware of Sarah Fields. Shout out to Sarah Fields. Sarah and I have worked together on a previous case, Carmelo Anthony's case. We both covered it while we were in Dallas, Texas, on the ground during his trial. Man, those liberals, they were so upset with us. They were so mad, threatening us and everything else. But one thing about our team, which I didn't even come there with her and her team, but we just ended up joining forces, is we still got the job done. Sarah Fields is a fighter, and she continues to deliver more and more information about this Nolan Wells case. Now, this is where things start to change. This is where what we just heard starts to make sense. This is why we have to put it all together. No, Sarah Fields says here, call for screenshots, videos, and posts Nolan Wells case, right? She goes, I'm sure by now, many of you know I'm working directly with the attorneys representing the boys who have been threatened and defamed in connection with the Nolan Wells case. We have now opened a box or drop box for anyone who has screenshots, videos, posts, or other documentation involving Warren, Jax, or Morgan. Now, one question that I do have is, I noticed there are a few friends who I remember their names. I'm not going to say them on this podcast right now, but I'm surprised they're not included in this group of young people, suing. These people who I'm thinking of have been accused a lot in this case. I mean, social media is going after them hard. One of them was even told that he had to leave a restaurant, that his money wasn't valuable at that restaurant because of his involvement in this case. Even though he has not been proven guilty, he is an innocent man. He also happens to be Black, and that's going on as well. So I wonder why those young people are not included in this particular lawsuit. However, let's continue. It says, please understand what we are looking for. We do not need random comments or posts with 2 to 3 likes and almost no views. We are looking for the big voices, people with large platforms, viral videos, viral posts, significant engagement, and substantial reach. We have created one specific folder for Ben Crump. So any information y'all have on Ben Crump, y'all can go ahead and drop it in the drop box. Sarah Fields and the young men's lawyers would greatly appreciate it, because I'm telling you, Ben Crump might actually have to pay up. I mean, at this point, he should. He should, because there should be consequences for being a race baiter. There should be consequences for going into a town where everyone's getting along. You heard from Nolan Wells' parents' friend last week, who said everybody's getting along in this town. You have white people and Black people who are marrying, who are having children together. Their kids are playing together. Racism is not a big issue in this town. This town in Mississippi has moved forward. Stop comparing us to what happened 70 years ago with a case that is not even close to this case. Ben Crump still didn't hear the call to stop. He doubled down. He called this a distraction. People like that a distraction. Here, Sarah Fields goes on to say everything involving him should go there. The remaining folders are for large creators, influencers, public figures, media personalities, and others whose content receives significant attention. We are also specifically looking for videos, post clips, and other content from Nancy Grace. I told you all. I told you that Nancy was coming up. And she's going to possibly have to face these friends in court. Now, I'm not a lawyer, so I don't know exactly how they are going to be able to tie her to defamation, because, some people could look at what Nancy is doing as just journalism and she's sharing her opinion. I don't know how that's going to work out legally, but clearly Trump's lawyers are on this case and they have a track record of winning. So I don't believe that they would ask for information regarding Nancy if they did not genuinely have a case. What do you all think about that? Do you think that Nolan Wells' friends' lawyers, Trump's former defamation attorneys, are losing it when it comes to going after Nancy Grace? I want to hear your thoughts about that. Maybe you're a lawyer and you're watching this and you know more information than I do. I'm always willing to learn. So I would love to hear your thoughts. Now, this goes on to say, other news reporters and media personality who has further misinformation or contributed to the targeting of these boys. If you have something you believe meets these criteria and would like to help, please DM me and I will provide you with the Dropbox link. So obviously she's needing our help. And if you have some information that could contribute, please be sure to send it to Sarah Fields. And she, I'm sure, will respond and send you that Dropbox link. She goes on to say, and please, if you have the original screenshot or screen recording showing the account name, date, views, likes, shares, or other engagement numbers, send that version whenever possible. Preserve the original content and context. We want to thank you all. We want to thank all of you for your continued help and support. So many of you have been documenting this from the beginning, and that documentation has been preserved. It's time to hold these people accountable. Now, that is new information because, like I said, when I first heard that the lawyers were going after people defaming Nolan Wells' friends, little did I know they were going after Nancy Grace too. Did y'all know? Did y'all expect them to go after Nancy Grace? Some of you may have expected it. Some of you may have not. Here's the thing. There's consequences for actions. And I believe that we live in a free country. At the same time, when you are hurting people with what you're presenting and you're defaming them, accountability should come into play. These young men have the rest of their lives ahead of them. They literally are only 18 to 20 years old. I'm sure a majority of them. And so when you have big media voices like the Don Lemons of the world, like Ben Crump, like Nancy Grace, sharing information with the public in a way that would make it seem as though these young people have committed a crime, this is affecting their reputation long term. And so at some point, we've got to say enough is enough. And that is why so many people have been giving to their Give, Send, Go. So many people have been stepping up and saying, you know what? I want to support this. I want to make sure that I'm behind this. If you are one of those people who want to support Nolan Wells' friends, I want to put up this Give, Send, Go. There's no pressure, obviously, to support, but they have exceeded their goal by a lot. I mean, their goal was initially only 50,000. Now they've raised their goal to 200,000 because so many people see what they're going through. And they're saying enough is enough. So I wanted to show you all that so you are aware of it. Now, I have an update for you when it comes to Nolan Wells' parents, especially when it comes to Nolan Wells' mom. Now, we all remember, which I'm sure you remember, Nolan Wells' mom coming out and sharing with the public that her son, Nolan, had come up missing and she didn't know any information. The authorities were saying that he drowned. And she said that basically she didn't understand why they were saying that without evidence. She was also saying that Nolan Wells' phone seemed to be missing some information. And that's really what sparked the public's interest in this case. Because immediately people are like, wait, his phone? His friends deleted stuff from his phone? Then you had some other people who were saying racism. The friends are racist because clearly they did delete something from his phone. You had all of these rumors, all of these accusations, all of these assumptions going around with no evidence of that. Now, I want to remind you of how Nolan Wells' mother described this. Let's check it out.
When we finally got his phone, me and my sister went through the phone. We went in his Snapchat. He had 2 accounts, absolutely nothing. It wasn't even 24 hours, which is how long videos and pictures stay in Snapchat. And I was just like, that can't be. Like, I've seen Nolan whenever he snaps, like when he goes and he's having fun, like he does videos. Like, there was absolutely nothing, no saved videos. And even my sister was like, yeah, that's suspicious,
Michael,
you know.
We having an independent autopsy done at the behest of his family. Colin Kaepernick helped pay for the independent autopsy. We flew his body up from Mississippi to D.C. because they wanted an autopsy done by a person with no interaction with the Mississippi law enforcement, because there's an issue of trust here that is really important. And the fact that they keep trying to say, well, suggesting it was a drowning, but nobody out there reported him drowning, it's not adding up, Michael Strahan. It is not adding up.
And honestly, we are doing this because at the end of the day, I would hope any parent would fight for their kids to find out if anything happened, what did happen. So we just want honesty and transparency. We want a thorough investigation. We want that same respect that would be given to anybody else. And that's it. We just want answers.
All right. So I'm sure you all remember that. Nolan Wells' mother said they just want answers. They want to know what happened to Nolan. Why were these text messages allegedly deleted, which there was no evidence to support that any text messages were deleted. But I show you that clip and I remind you of that clip because I wanted to remind you of just how eager she said she was to get answers. She wanted the authorities to do their job. And she said that she wanted them to treat this case as if it was their own child. Well, as new information has come out, things are starting to look a little bit suspicious. Now, Nolan's parents are grieving, and no one should take that away from them. Okay? Everyone should respect the fact that Nolan's parents are grieving. And so I do respect that. At the same time, this case has gotten national attention. And it's gotten national attention because of people like Ben Crump and Al Sharpton, who have come alongside this family and who have added fuel to the fire. They have made it seem as though race is a huge factor in this case because Nolan Wells went to the island with his white friends. They showed that picture of Nolan Wells with 3 of his white friends without showing the fact that Nolan Wells was also with his black friends as well. And so they knew what it took to get people involved and interested in this case. And in the process, so many people have been hurt. You're about to hear from Nolan Wells' friends in a little while, which if you're watching the replay, be sure to watch that particular video about it. Officer Tatum has gone back to Horn Island. And you're about to hear about some of their experiences. Now, Sarah Fields provided this exclusive. And this is concerning because when I think of Nolan Wells' parents, I want to believe that they're acting in good faith. When I hear situations like this, when I hear information like this, it makes me have questions. And I hate to say that. I hate to have to admit that to the public. But as a journalist, it's my job to share the truth. It's my job to go where the evidence leads. It's my job to present the facts to the public in order to obviously maintain journalistic integrity and also hopefully not add fuel to the fire. I want people to be able to see this case clearly because let's be real. I don't want to see another BLM 2020 fiasco. I don't want to see buildings burned down. I don't want to see police precincts burned down. I don't want to see BLM marching in the streets, destroying property value, all because of lies being spread. That's why I do what I do. That is why I report on situations like this, because I know how much that particular time, 2020, affected me, affected my generation. And the truth is there are a lot of young people who are around my age. Nolan Wells' friends are around my age. They're just a little bit younger than me, who are not worried about racism. We didn't grow up thinking about racism because we were all going to school together. We obviously grew up in a time where even America had a black president. We've learned about history. We know that America has fought a brutal war to end slavery. America has paid for its sin and America has moved forward. We know that. My generation, I'd like to believe that most of my generation knows that. And so when 2020 came around and BLM was acting crazy like that, I just didn't understand why. A lot of us didn't. But the truth is that we know that there is a deceptor, the father of lies, uses people to spread his agenda. And it is up to us to stand up and speak out against it. Now, this is all alleged here coming from Sarah Fields because I obviously did not get this exclusive. She did. However, she has, I know that she is connected with Nolan Wells' friends' lawyers who are covering this case, who are making sure that the public is aware of what's going on, who is in the process of suing people who have been defaming Nolan Wells' friends. And so I truly do trust her reporting here. But I'm still going to allow you, I still will say this, make your own judgment here. What do you all think of this? This is alleged because, like I said, I did not produce this. But Sarah Fields is a credible journalist. I will say that. Now, she says here, according to a credible source with close proximity to and knowledge of the investigation, more than 30 days after the death of Nolan Wells, his mother, Christine Wells Wansley, has allegedly not surrendered Nolan's cell phone to authorities. Now, that's shocking to me because, like I said, Nolan Wells' mom makes it seem as though she just wants answers. On Facebook, she posts multiple times saying, I just want to know what happened to Nolan Wells. The question of the day is what happened to Nolan Wells. Well, if you want to know what happened to Nolan Wells, shouldn't you hand over the cell phone that he was carrying the day that he went missing, or the days leading up to when he went missing? And his body was found dead on Horn Island. Don't you want to hand over that cell phone? Because you said that his friends allegedly could have deleted text messages. So why not hand that over to authorities so authorities can verify or deny those particular claims? Sarah goes on to write, this is the same cell phone that became a major point of speculation almost immediately after Nolan's disappearance and death. Christine herself made Nolan's cell phone a significant part of the public suspicion. Initially, Christine said Nolan's phone was not with him on Horn Island. According to her account, the family tracked the phone using Live 360, determined that it was back on the mainland, and had a family friend retrieve it from a friend's house. Christine then publicly discussed what she and her friend found, or more importantly, what they didn't find. When they went through Nolan's phone, we watched that clip. She said they checked both of his Snapchat accounts and found no photos or videos from that day. Because less than 24 hours had passed and Nolan was someone who normally took photos and videos while out with friends. Christine suggested that content must have been deleted. Those statements help fuel multiple conspiracy theories and unverified rumors surrounding Nolan's phone and what may or may not have been removed from it. Wouldn't y'all say that's accurate? Because in my opinion, those statements made by Christine about Nolan Wells' friends is what made the public not trust them even more. Because you already know how black liberals are. As soon as they see white and black, a case has to do with white and black people, they're already all over it. Then if you add fuel to the fire by saying, and his phone was, it looks like they might have deleted messages from his phone. Well, let's be real. Black people, black liberals and white liberals, because I'm seeing some white liberals on this case too, who have been spreading a lot of lies. And I'm sure that Nolan Wells' lawyer will be coming for them as well. I saw and I covered the fact that there was this white OnlyFans lady, former OnlyFans, which you all were pointing out in the comments. I'm not even going to say that, but this was she was allegedly an OnlyFans model at one point, and she was coming up with a lot of conspiracies. And so there have been a lot of liberals on this case. And like I said, if you say the right words, if you say the right trigger words, that's just going to set them off. You got a whole new conspiracy coming up. I mean, think about what happened with that audio. As soon as people like Nancy Grace and people like Janita Bentley, I think is her name, Brentley or something along those lines, came out with that audio, oh my goodness. These liberals were on fire. They didn't care about the fact that the friends were off the island by the time Nolan Wells came up missing, but allegedly his black friend saw him before. He was one of the last people to see him before he passed away, allegedly, because he saw him after the friends left the island, allegedly. So, but they don't care about that because that doesn't fit the narrative. So when Christine was saying what she was saying, it was fueling the fire. Now she's in a situation where we're finding out that she hasn't even turned over the phone to the authorities. Here it says, it was later clarified by multiple witnesses that Nolan left his phone on the boat along with several others. There were at least 5 other people who left their phone, according to Officer Tatum's report, as if was not custom to walk around and wade through the water with their cell phone on their person. Now, what she's saying here is who's going to carry their phone around while they're in salt water? We all know good and well that when you're in salt water, if your phone touches that salt water, your phone is dead. It's gone. So it wouldn't make sense for Nolan to have his phone while he was in the water. Now, some people are like, well, why didn't he grab his phone before they left? From what the friends are saying, he wanted to see Katie. He was very, he really liked her. They were, cozy with each other. And so it seems as though Nolan was distracted there. Also, we have learned from Officer Tatum's account, and this is allegedly, that there was more than just alcohol involved, that there was some substance abuse involved as well. So if that is true, it would make sense why Nolan Wells was not dedicated to being around his phone, because he was distracted by other things. But that's not a conversation that people want to have, even though it's probable that that's what led to his death. What led to this potential drowning that may or may not include foul play. That's not a conversation that some people want to have, because then it changes their narrative. It doesn't fit their narrative, because this case has to be about race for people like Don Lemon. This case has to be about race. Christine later clarified her statements. Of course she did, because this is what happened with Ben Crump. Do you remember when Ben Crump came out after he had released the photos of Nolan Wells with his friends at a pool party saying, "Oh, I cannot confirm or deny that these photos were taken after the July 4th, but I'll let you all know." Why would you even post them if you can't confirm that, Ben Crump? But same kind of situation where, he had to come out and, or he had said something that he knew more than likely wasn't true, just to get the public riled up. Christine later clarified her statements, acknowledging that she did not actually know whether anything had been deleted. Her belief was based on the fact that she found it strange that Nolan apparently had not taken photos or videos that day. But now there is much bigger question. There's a much bigger question. According to my source, more than a month after Nolan's death, Christine refuses to turn Nolan's cell phone over to authorities. If Christine genuinely believes foul play may have occurred, and if she believes Nolan's cell phone could contain information, evidence connected to what happened, why has the phone not been surrendered to investigators for forensic examination? Good question. She has stated that she wants the truth. A cell phone can contain far more than than someone sees by manually scrolling through it. Location information, application data, account activity, timestamps, communications, cloud records, and potentially recoverable deleted data can all become relevant to an investigation. If you believe something was deleted, wouldn't you want investigators examining the device to determine whether that was actually true? If you believe your son was a victim of foul play, wouldn't you want investigators to have every potentially relevant piece of evidence available to them? And if this phone was important enough to publicly raise questions about what happened to Nolan, why has it remained outside of the hands of investigators for more than a month? Now, these are all good questions. And if I'm being honest, I'm wondering too. I am. I'm wondering, and I want to know what's going on, because the public is invested in this case. We all want to know what happened to Nolan. And to be honest, this is at least the second time that I can think of that unfortunately I've heard Christine caught up in something. Because the first time I heard that there was some information being left out was when Christine had said that Nolan Wells' friends' parents hadn't reached out to her. Then later on, she comes up and she says, actually, 2 or 3 of them have reached out. Which one is it? Now I'm hearing that the phone wasn't turned over to the authorities. Why not? Could it be that Nolan Wells' parents know more about this case than they're letting on? That they actually do know what happened to Nolan Wells? Because at this point, I'm starting to think that it's possible that they know more than they're letting on. And if that's the case, then they should come out, because like I said, I'm not wanting to see another 2020 situation. And if they care about this country and they say that this is really not about race, because initially they said, okay, we're not going to make it about race, but we're not going to rule it out. They said something along those lines. If they are really dedicated to the truth and they're really dedicated to the facts and they want people to believe that they're not making it about race, they should come out and they should tell the public what they know. Because at this point, tensions are continuing to get higher and higher. Temperature is getting higher and higher. And we know that the midterms are right around the corner. We know that the Democrats are scheduled to lose big time. We know that the American people do not want their policies. They do not want open borders. We know that the American people do not want their cities being raided. They do not want higher taxes. So, but we also know that the Democrats don't want the Republicans to win. So what do? They have to stir up trouble. And we're getting closer and closer to the midterms, and this case needs to be settled because we don't need to give them any ammunition in order to win. We shouldn't. My concern is that there could be some fuel added to the fire if this case is not settled beforehand. That's my concern. Think about what happened with George Floyd. There was an election right around the corner. So they knew exactly what to do. Make something about race. Make it seem as though the Republicans are racist. Make it seem as though conservatives are racist people. And that's how they end up installing Joe Biden into office, which I don't truly believe that he won that election, but that's neither here or there. That's how he got installed. Is because they got people emotional. Because let's be real, a lot of Americans don't necessarily care about the facts all the time. They're not focused on logic. A lot of Americans are focused on feelings. There are people in this country who don't understand that facts don't care about your feelings necessarily all the time, even though your feelings are still important. I'm not going to take that away from you. But you have to deal in logic and reasoning, especially when it comes to cases like this, because obviously, there's a process that you've got to go through. When the authorities had come out initially and said that they weren't suspecting foul play, I didn't interpret that as there was no foul play. I interpret that as, oh, okay, so there's an ongoing investigation. That means from what they can see right now, there was no foul play. Okay, all right, we'll wait for more information to come out. That's how I interpreted it. But then you had liberals who got on the case. And they interpreted it in an entire different way. They interpreted it as, oh, the authorities are saying that there was no foul play, and they are totally wrong. They're basically making this case about race. They're covering for these white people. Nolan Wells isn't going to get justice unless we fight because these white people are determined to get these white kids off. That's how they interpreted it. And it's all because a lot of people are dealing in their emotions instead of facts and logic. And that has consequences because, like I said, as more information is coming out, we're seeing that even people who are closely involved with this case are holding back valuable information. We're seeing that the phone that sparked this case, the alleged phone that had text messages deleted, is being withheld from authorities. Why is that? Oh, no. People who were so dedicated to making this case about race, they didn't even think to ask those questions. Still haven't asked that question. They are still determined to push their agenda because they are Black Marxists. Their job is to go in, to start chaos, to make a problem where there's no problem in order to push their takeover. And it's all because I think a lot of these people are highly uneducated, at least when it comes to the important things about this country as far as our history. They don't understand economics. They don't understand how good we have it as a country, have things as a country. They don't understand that. They don't want to understand it. Instead, they want to burn it down. They want to destroy what is good. And as conservatives, we believe in conserving what is good. That is why I am covering this case, because I don't want what is good being destroyed. And I believe we have a good country. I believe that we've come a far way. I believe that America is not a racist nation. We've overcome the past. We are moving forward. And we continue to move forward. And that's why I was so encouraged when I saw Emmanuel come up last week. And I did reach out to him, just so you know. I reached out and I asked him, hey, could you come on the show? I didn't hear back. But I did hear back from someone very special. Which, should I announce it tonight? Should I announce who's coming on the show? Do y'all want to know who's coming on the show later this week? Let me know in the comment section. Should I announce the next guest? At least one of the next guests. I might have a few guests. But this is someone you're going to want to hear from. I've been waiting to announce it. Somebody got it in the comment section. Somebody has already guessed who our next guest is. Just for clarity's sake, I will announce the next guest at the end of this show and continue to announce it throughout the week, just because I know some people are watching right now. Some people will watch the replay and may not get it. So there will be multiple announcements, all right, about this next guest who I know and I believe you're going to want to hear from. Now, speaking of next guest, you know what? The cat is pretty much out of the bag. Officer Tatum is coming to the Tamera Nealy show, and we're going to watch this clip that he posted today, because let me tell you something. Officer Tatum and his team have been all over this case, like white on rice. They have been exposing everything. They have been flipping the liberal narrative like never before. All right? They have the liberals over there doing gymnastics to figure out how they can make this case into a race case. They've interviewed Nolan Wells' black friend. They've interviewed the white friends. And then they're coming back for round two. Now, Nolan Wells' friend's lawyer is sitting in on this interview, and he shares some valuable insights. Now, there were some concerning things brought up that I hadn't heard before regarding what's happening to Nolan Wells' friends that I think you all should hear. Let's go ahead and tune in to this interview with Officer Tatum.
I would assume you're living a regular life, young guys being in college, having a typical experience, then you lose your friend.
I think like ever since it happened, my life just like hit like a hole. Like even going out, we're always paranoid somebody's gonna see us, get spotted, try to beat us up potentially, or even worse.
You just met these young men more recently. And are you confident that...
I want to skip this just because there's music involved. Let's go ahead and skip here. So as you can see, here's Morgan. We've heard his name because he's listed in the he's listed as somebody who's a part of the upcoming lawsuit against people who have been defaming the friend group. Then we have Jax here, and then this is Warren. I've seen Warren plenty of times. I'm not sure if I've seen Morgan and Jax before. Maybe you all have seen them or not, but here they are. This is what they look like. Also, Edward is here as well, which is their lawyer. Let's check it out.
Jax, and then we have Morgan here. And so I talked to Warren last time I was here. We had a really deep conversation, and I'm glad that we were able to get other perspectives now that we have Ed here. Ed is a defamation attorney. And I want to start with you, Ed. Why did you choose to work with the boys? What is your plans? What do you expect to get out of working with them? What's your expectations when it comes to defamation?
Well, I think an injustice in one place is an injustice everywhere. I hate lying. I care about the truth, but most of all, it's the actual people who are involved here. So first of all, I just want to say Tyler Cox really welcomed me here. My co-counsel, he's an incredible human being and he's an incredible attorney. And then after that, I had an opportunity to meet these incredible young men. And I just got to say, these guys are unbelievable. Warren, Jackson, Morgan, they're just beautiful people. They're really decent human beings. They're just great people. And, that's why I'm here, because I want to help great people. And this is a very sad situation, but it's also a very human situation. And it's a tragedy.
So you guys have, obviously before this happened, I would assume you're living a regular life, young guys being in college.
Let's stop it for a second. Christine makes it seem as though, Christine Nolan Wells' mother, makes it seem as though these were not his friends. Yet I'm seeing multiple pictures of them with Nolan Wells. Why is that? More than likely it's because these were his friends. He was hanging out with them on the 4th of July for a reason. He didn't just go off to an island that's 10 miles away from shore, from the mainland, with these strangers. No, these are people he grew up with, people he knew and loved. Imagine how Nolan would feel if he could see what's happening right now.
You know, having
To
a
his
typical
friends.
experience, then you lose your friend, Nolan. And after that, what has life been like for you guys?
I think like ever since it happened, my life just like hit like a hole, like it just stopped. And I mean, we just got to live day by day from now on. I could say definitely a whole flip upside down for our lives. It's like even going out, you know, we're always paranoid somebody's gonna see us, get spotted, try to beat us up potentially, or even worse. We're really just trying to stay low key and not go out as much or anything like that. Yeah.
It's been hard because my friends and I are people. I mean, we like to be out and hang out outside of our friend group, you know, and not being able to like go certain places or, you know, walk around in public because our head's always on a swivel. It's really affected all of us. I mean, especially in like my family's standpoint, my safety comes first. My friends and family safety come first too, and it's been really hard because I'm worried about like my family as well with me, and it's hard. But you know, we're just going day by day and just trying to get through every day. You know.
Can you give me some?
To me, I can tell that Warren is having a hard time with this. I can tell that Nolan was one of Nolan was one of Warren's best friends. I can just tell by his demeanor that this is weighing on him. Imagine how these young men are feeling. They can't even grieve. This is a traumatic event for them too, because imagine if you were in their situation, you went to an island with your friend and you're having a good time, you're partying, which I don't recommend that young people, especially below the age of 21, engage in underage drinking. I don't recommend that you do anything other than drinking as well. That's not acceptable. Now, if you know what I'm talking about, you know what I'm talking about. No young people should be doing any sort of substance or nobody should be doing that kind of stuff. And so I've kind of talked a lot about that in the past. You know, my past coverage on this case, because I want that to be emphasized. A lot of young people don't understand that when you are impaired by drugs and alcohol, your frontal lobe is disturbed. Your frontal lobe right here is what controls your decision-making function. And your brain is not fully developed until you're around 25. So imagine how these substances that people engage in affect their growth. And I want young people to be healthy. I remember being in college, and I've kind of shared some of my experiences as far as what, you know, a friend went through when I was in college that really just was devastating to me. But I remember being in college and there was just a lot of young people who engaged in drinking and stuff. And my thing is you can have fun. You can still have fun and not drink. You can have fun and not do drugs. To me, you would even have more fun. You don't have to worry about a hangover. And so I can't continue without acknowledging that fact.
Examples of what has happened. Have you guys had things happen online, threats online? Have you guys have any examples of people accosting you or anything like that?
Oh yeah, we have had countless death threats online. Been spotted. I'll let you elaborate more on that. Being spotted.
I mean, people have obviously just pointed us out. I mean, as a group and even on a one-on-one setting, I think it's really just like awkward because I don't want to talk about this, and I know my friends don't want to talk about this any more than we need to. You know, we're still mourning one of our best friends' death, and it's hard to speak about it when, you know, like sometimes we just need some alone time, or sometimes we just need to, you know, lay back and not be around all this. And I mean, we've I've been called out in public, and I haven't been in public that much. I know my friends have had encounters in public. The threats have been insane from, my stepmom and my dad, my mom, just everyone included, like even my brothers and my sisters. And it's just hard. I mean, it's unbelievable where like this has been taken to and the level where this is at.
When you say you've been called out in public, can you give me an example of like, what do you mean? People are threatening you with weapons? People are, not allowing you, denying you service? Because I heard that Trayston, he went to a corner store and they told him his money is not good there. They wouldn't even let him buy Gatorade.
Yeah.
Are you experiencing things like that or something totally different?
We got to stop for a second. Can y'all believe that? Now, if you don't remember who Trayston is, he is Nolan Wells' black friend who came forward and talked about his experience on Horn Island and what he knows about what happened on July 4th. It's interesting because a lot of black liberals say that Black Lives Matter. They say that they do what they're doing, such as how they're contributing to Nolan Wells' case in order to protect Black lives. In the same breath, they distance themselves, they humiliate, they attempt to destroy Black lives who go against their narrative. And the question is why? I believe it's because they're not really in this for Black lives. They are in this to push a political agenda. They do not want you to be free. They do not want you to think for yourself. They do not want you to know that you don't have to live like you're on a plantation. They want you to be mentally enchained so they can control you and they can get your vote. That's exactly why you have over 90% of the Black community voting Democrat, when they don't even realize that the Republicans are the ones who freed the slaves. It's like they don't even realize that. The Democrats didn't want you to be free. But that's a conversation that the Black liberals don't want you to have. They don't want you to think about that, because then you may start to wake up. You may start to understand that you have agency, that you are equally a part of this country, just like everybody else. And you may start to make a difference. Who knows? You may even become a Black millionaire like Officer Tatum. Who knows? Maybe you'll start a company that reaches hundreds of thousands of people and solves a global crisis, a national emergency. Who knows what you'll become if you know that you can become it? And that is what liberals are afraid of. They're afraid of Black people waking up. They're afraid of people like Trayston. And so what do? They attempt to silence him. They attempt to reject him, to throw stones at him. All because he's speaking the truth. All because he's saying what you're doing is wrong. That's not what happened. And Trayston, if you're watching this, continue to speak up. Continue to be yourself and share the truth. There are a lot of Black conservatives around the country who know exactly how you feel. When I heard Trayston's interview and I heard his words, I knew exactly what he was talking about because I've been there. I've been rejected. I've been told that I'm a coon. I've been told that I'm a sellout. Do I care? Absolutely not. I don't care what people think about me because I know who I am. I'm a child of God. I was made with special purposes. And so when you understand that God has given you gifts and callings, and your gifts and callings will make room for you and bring you before great men, you don't care what people think because you understand that your life is bigger than you. It's not just about you. And so, Trayston, if you're watching this, continue doing what you're doing. Don't stop.
Right. I wouldn't say like that. I think I haven't been denied, anything, but like Trayston, it's hard to hear from a good friend of mine that he's getting denied a Gatorade and a Red Bull before work and having to, like, he calls me, he's like, dude, you won't believe what just happened. He got called out at Walmart someone called him out at Walmart and was like asking him all these questions and trying to press him about it. And it's crazy to me. Like, you know, we live in a very tight knit community, and for people to, you know, push back and say these things when they know what Ocean Springs is like, it's really hard. And I mean, I haven't had many personal encounters, but I know being around the guys and stuff like that, they have. So.
And Ed, as an attorney that's representing these boys, I mean, what does that make you feel like? You know, do you feel like you got a good case here, or, you know, what's your perspective in that? Because, you know, people are online and obviously they know who you are. Obviously they know you represented Donald Trump in some pretty high profile cases. And so now that you've joined, or at least now you work for the young men here, you hear them say things like they've been accosted, they've been, you know, threatened online. Does that make your case a greater case, or how do you work within what's happening to these young men?
Well, unfortunately, I wish there was no case. I wish this hadn't happened. But unfortunately, because these things did happen, there is a case, and now there's multiple cases.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to tell you something. If you're out there and you lied about these guys, you lied about my guys, you lied about Tyler's guys here, if you lied about Morgan, if you lied about Jax, if you lied about Warren, we're going to get you.
Wow.
And you're going to be hauled into court. You're going to be held accountable, and it's going to be very painful. And what I would say to the people who have done that is, now's your chance. If you want to apologize and retract before you find yourself in court, you should probably do that now. Because if you don't do that, once you're in court, now you just can't leave.
Wow. Well, that's a final warning. Warning comes before destruction. Look at the boy's face here. I just happened to notice they're kind of smiling a little bit because they already know what's up. And so they're happy to have a lawyer who's defending them. And that's because of so many great Americans who have come together and who have raised money for these young people. Imagine how they would feel if they were defenseless. They would probably feel powerless on top of, you know, grieving and all those things. And it could deter their lives. But you have people around the country who have stepped up, who have said, we're not going to let these young men fall by the wayside. And that is really awesome. And you can see here that this lawyer here, Edward, he's not playing games. Now watch him double down, because it gets even better.
You won't be able to get out of it. And we're not going to name names because there's some other folks who are doing that, and we want to be better than that. And I want to emphasize this, right? We're not here to guess. We're not here to speculate. We're only going to deal in facts, right? And here's the most important thing, right? We don't know how Nolan Wells died. No one here is saying we know. But what we do know is Morgan, Jax, and Warren had nothing whatsoever to do with Nolan Wells' death.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what's important. And unfortunately, because there are people who want to divide a town and come in from the outside and tell people what to think and pit neighbor against neighbor, it compounds the tragedy. It magnifies the tragedy.
Mm-hmm.
And I just want to say this. Here's why it's an even bigger tragedy. Because my friends here, Morgan, Jax, and Warren, these guys are not just the finest that Ocean Springs has to offer, finest that Mississippi has to offer. These are the finest young men that America has to offer. You know, really great people. And Tyler actually taught me good Ocean Springs people. That was one of the first things I heard when I got here. So I'll just say that they're good Ocean Springs people.
Sorry to interrupt.
Wow. That's a high compliment. You can tell that they spent a little bit of time with Edward.
Just met these young men more recently. And are you confident that these young men had nothing to do with it?
Confidence not a strong enough word. In fact, beyond a reasonable doubt is not strong enough.
Wow.
There's a 0% chance that they did anything wrong. So this is not 90%.
Wow. That shuts down all the claims. That shuts down Nancy Grace, you know, and her interpretation of the Toe phone call. That shuts down Ben Crump. That shuts down Don Lemon. I mean, I don't think that this lawyer would come out, especially knowing his reputation, the fact that he is responsible for some big wins that Trump has accumulated when it comes to defamation lawsuits. I don't think he would come out and say this if he didn't really, and I don't know if he's actually the lawyer who was on Trump's case. There's two lawyers involved in this case who, and I don't know if it was both of them or just one of them, but either way, they wouldn't have taken on this case, especially knowing that at least one of them is President Trump's personal defamation lawyer, if they didn't believe there was a case. That just wouldn't happen. So when he's saying this, I believe him, because I just don't believe that he would put his reputation on the line like this and make his law firm look crazy. I don't believe that. He's clearly vetted these guys. He's heard their stories. And like I've mentioned in previous videos, why would Warren's father put up $50,000 if he believed his son was guilty? Why would he do that?
It's not 99%. It's not 99.9999. There's no decimals. There's no anything. It's 100%. 100.000%. Nothing. They did nothing wrong. And that's the problem for our opponents here, who have ruined their lives, dragged them through the mud, and attacked them. You don't get to lie. We have a First Amendment. We love our First Amendment, but you don't get to lie and hurt people. You want to lie and it doesn't hurt people? Fine. You lie and you hurt people. That's why we have defamation. And that's what this is about. So I just want to emphasize this in the strongest possible terms. Zero wrongdoing. Completely innocent. Totally innocent. And categorically innocent.
Wow.
And you guys have had
what do y'all think about
experiences.
That? What do y'all think about that? I want to hear your thoughts in the comment section. What do you think about Warren, Jackson, and the other young man, their lawyer coming out and speaking so strongly on their behalf and saying they are 100% innocent? What do y'all think about that? Wow. I mean, I don't know about you, but that almost leaves me speechless.
With either people threatening you online. I know that, Warren, we talked about this before, and we talked a little, or at least spoke a little bit about when you go out, you guys are getting accosted by people. Can you give us an example of, or at least tell the audience an example of an incident where you guys may have been accosted? Or what does that look like when you go out? People threaten you with weapons, or people trying to physically harm you, or people having to be restrained? What kind of engagement is happening when you guys go out?
We went to a restaurant, a couple of buddies of mine, and when we were, I wouldn't say threatening with weapons or anything, but I felt, and I know my friends felt, threat for our lives. I mean, I don't think there was like a fear factor, but at the same time, like it's awkward in public, like I stated, like when we have to talk about these things. But we went to a restaurant and someone came up to me and was like, "Is this you?" And I was kind of like shaken up about it. Well, at first she asked like my name and like all these questions, and I was like, okay, whatever, she's just coming up to talk. Well, then she came up to me again and showed me our first interview and was like, "Are you sure this isn't you?" And I was like, "Well, yeah, that's me, like, obviously." And
I'm surprised that a young lady would have boldness to go up to, this young man and say that. I mean, wow. That's kind of crazy because, I mean, as a lady, we're the weaker vessel. I could see a guy coming up, even though that's not right to do, but a young lady coming up and doing this? I mean, I'm shocked by that, if I'm being honest. That could be a dangerous situation for her. Ladies, I do not advise going up to men and confronting them, especially men you don't know, in public and doing that. I'm telling you, it could end badly.
She kind of just, I looked at my buddy and I was like, "Yeah, we're leaving, like close everything out, like we're going." And I left, and there was an altercation after I left with some of my buddies that weren't involved in this at all. And they told my friends that they were going to kill them and they wanted to fight and all this like crazy stuff. I mean,
That's crazy.
I wasn't there, but my friends told me this, that what the people were saying to them was like totally just crazy. Like, I mean, there was people like that were, outside of this telling us like, hey, you need to leave before something happens because I know what could go down right now. And like, I know that these people are crazy. So, I mean, we all felt, we were kind of shaken up about that. It was weird because it was our first encounter as a group. And I think it's also like just crazy that people will like look at you in the eye and tell you they'll kill you because they believe you killed your best friend and you have nothing to do with it.
And Morgan and Jax, were you guys there?
Yes, we were there. I didn't hear the part where they said they were going to kill him and stuff, but I did hear whenever she came up to him originally, she was like, hey, you have like TikTok or anything like that? Your face looks really familiar. And he was like, no, I don't have TikTok, anything like that. She was like, oh, okay. And then walked off and then came back with, like you said, the first interview on her phone and showing him. She's like, so this isn't you. Either you have a doppelganger or this is you. And he was like, well, yeah, that's me. And then we got the check and we bounced and we were waiting outside for everybody else to get out of there. And while we're waiting outside is whenever some of our other buddies that aren't even on social media that we were just there with was getting told that other people are going to kill them and all that kind of stuff.
I see. Well, here's the thing, and this is what I would recommend. Moving forward, because that has been happening with Nolan Wells' friends, if I could sit down and give them any advice, I would say if something like that happens again, always pull out your camera immediately. Record it so that the world can see what these people are doing. Don't be afraid to show the world. Because when you show the world, people like this begin to realize that all eyes are on them. And hopefully that kind of sparks some sense into them. And then they're able to be held accountable appropriately. Because I don't know who this young lady is who they're talking about. We don't know. But if people like this are doing this to them, the world deserves to know. Because nobody deserves to be treated like this, especially when they are innocent. There's no evidence to support that they did anything to Nolan Wells. They're just simply white young men, and that's why they're being targeted. Because let's be real. Besides Trayston, which we know why Trayston is being targeted because he's not saying what black people want him to say, even though he's black. But notice how the other friend Nolan had who's black, I think his name is Javon. I haven't heard of him being targeted. I haven't heard of him being, bullied or harassed while he's in public or being threatened in docks. Notice he's not experiencing that, but it's these young men who are experiencing it. And that's racism. We're seeing it happen in real time. We're living in a day and age where wrong seems right and right seems wrong. And the truth is that both black people could be treated in a racist way and white people could be treated in a racist way. Anybody could. Black people can be racist just like white people can be racist. And no matter who's doing it, it's wrong. And I'm going to say that as long as the day is long.
So how did that make you guys feel did you think they were serious? Did you think it was just people trying to make a name for themselves by confronting you in front of others? Like, what was your take on that, Morgan?
I think it was just like, I was in the general area of where one of our buddies was, where this altercation happened. And I actually got into a conversation with a fellow next to me that wasn't even involved. And he told me straight up, he was like, if I was y'all right now, I would leave before y'all get hurt. Y'all need to leave right now. I'm just watching out for y'all and making sure y'all are safe. And I mean, I wouldn't say that those people would have physically done something in that moment, but I think they were playing almost like a mental game, like just to get into your head and just almost like make yourself like just think these things that obviously are not true.
If you can go
That's the devil. That's the enemy using people to do those kind of things. And I'm glad that they had someone who was there who was saying, hey guys, leave, because I'm telling you, these people can get dangerous. Sometimes you see, people like that who can be dangerous, and some people downplay the thought of them potentially getting dangerous and things getting violent. You can't do that in 2026 when you see things are getting heightened up and you can tell that someone is a little bit unhinged, maybe a lot unhinged. You need to walk away and get out of there as soon as possible. I mean, I think about my time covering Carmelo Anthony's trial and how I even had to have security because of the level of threats and how people were acting out there. Just absolutely crazy. It's unfortunate that things are like this in this country right now, because we do have something so beautiful called freedom of speech. Everybody's voices can be heard. So let's have conversations. It doesn't have to result to violence. It should never result to violence. We should be able to speak to each other like adults respectfully, share your opinions, be able to articulate your ideas and get your point across. Practice that. Some people need to practice actually communicating, because that's really what's happening in this case too, is there's some exposure regarding that. A lot of people don't even know how to communicate with somebody who's a different race than them. That should not be the case in 2026. So if you're not used to interacting with people who's not your race, maybe you need to take some time to practice. Because most of us are not living in the past. Most of us have already moved on. We've never even experienced slavery. We've never experienced, all of us haven't experienced slavery. If you're living in America in 2026, you're free as can be, even though there are people around the world who are experiencing slavery even right now. There's no excuses anymore.
Back to the very beginning of this, how do you think this should have played out? Because I always question in my mind that when I go back, I look at what happened, I look at the initial stories with Nolan, and you guys knew him, right? I didn't know him. I know none of you guys. I just had a chance to meet you guys more recently. But how do you think this should have gone? If you could control the environment, Nolan is found deceased. How do you guys think that this should have been put out to the world?
So first off, I wish that none of this would ever happen. I wish Nolan could still be here with us today. And I wish that, like I said, none of this would ever happen. Like I wish that all this could be erased and Nolan could be here tomorrow. I mean, that's more than anything. But other than that, I feel like his mom blasting us on social media from the get-go, saying that he was out there with Warren and another guy. That's where it first started to take off. And then also the fact that she posted a picture of me and Morgan and another guy and Nolan on the boat together, blasting that out there, pushing this narrative, kind of, I guess. I wish that would have never happened either. And I don't think if those would have never happened, a lot of this stuff wouldn't have been as viral or gone all over the country at this point. I mean, this is a countrywide news story that is just blown out of proportion. And the fact that it was our best friend and it's not what people are saying it is what hurts the most. I mean, that was our brother. I mean, straight up. That's what I told his dad the night that he came over to my house. He was like, blah, blah, saying something. I was like, dude, that was my brother. Like, and you know that. He knows that. We were picking him up every single day. He never drove. I can't tell you how many times I pulled up in his driveway and picked him up.
Wow.
And it wasn't him asking. It was just because that's what we did. We just picked up Nolan all the time. That's how we, came about to all the stuff that we were going to. We'd go and pick him up. That's how much we like to be around him. We would do stuff like that all the time, Well,
I'm glad he's sharing his thoughts. This is, one of the first times I'm hearing him really articulate himself in this way. And so I hope that Nolan's mother is watching this and she's seeing how this story is affecting Nolan's friends. I really do. Do you see why I brought up the fact that Nolan's mom hasn't turned over his phone to authorities? I didn't bring that up for no reason. I brought that up because Nolan's mom, Christine, used that information, used the fact that she claimed that messages were potentially allegedly deleted to implicate his friends in his murder. So you would think that that would be a good reason to turn over the phone, right? I mean, these people are people too. And, like they said, they were picking Nolan up every day. How did she not see that Nolan was being picked up by his friends? I don't believe for 1 second that she didn't know some of these young people. Just like what the guy in the blue just said, or whatever color that is. I can't tell if it looks like it's grayish blue. I can't tell, but the young man who just spoke, he just basically said that when he was talking to Nolan's dad, his stepdad or dad, I don't know which one, that of course his dad knows that him and Nolan were brothers, which tells me that Nolan's dad has seen the two of them together before. So the fact that the family is making it seem like they don't know these young men is just it's mind blowing to me. It really is.
First off, like I would I wish we would have never like I think about this every day. Like I wish we would have never went out on the 4th of July because I know this wouldn't have happened. Nolan wouldn't be gone. And like it's really hard to think about because it's like I wish I would have done this different or I wish I would have done that different because now one of my brothers wouldn't have like passed away. But I think from the beginning, I'm glad that I called the Coast Guard.
Mhm.
I'm glad that we came together as a group, even from the first day when people started texting us things, saying, crazy things. But I wish it wouldn't have been reported as some type of race thing. I think it's really bad that like people are pushing the narrative, oh, this is a race thing. Well, obviously it's not. I mean, this is like a brother to us. I
Mhm.
mean, Nolan's no different than anyone else in our group. And I just wish this wasn't pushed on the media as, oh, this is a bunch of white guys that killed a black guy, or this is, four, like in the beginning, it was like 4 guys went to a stranded island and dumped Nolan at the island and just left him there. Like even from the beginning, it was just like this thing and no one had facts and they were just pushing this horrible narrative, all lies about everyone. And it's sick. So I wish that would have been completely different. I'm glad I called the Coast Guard. I'm glad I made the first contact within all of this. I'm glad I was the first one that called Christine Wells that night and
Mm.
told her that we haven't heard from her son. And I'm glad that I did all of that, but I hate the way this has been perceived by the media and portrayed. This has like been absolutely horrible with the way and the things that they've said to us
Mm.
and done. But other than that, I mean, there's not much I would change from my point of view and my friend's point of view. I think we did everything right, and I know we did nothing wrong.
I think I also want to say, I think it's so criminal.
I think to me it sounds like Warren has been overall pretty responsible as far as what steps he took after he suspected that his friend had gone missing and he hadn't heard from his friend. I think he did the right thing by reaching out to the Coast Guard, by reaching out to Christine, regardless of if Christine wants to acknowledge the fact that he reached out and he acted appropriately. I've got to give him, his credit here. This is, in this interview, I really see how this is affecting Warren like never before. I noticed it in the first interview that I saw of him, but this one is hitting differently. You all tell me if you are noticing the same thing. This one is hitting differently. You can tell this is really, really weighing on him. And it's weighing on him because he has mentioned his family is involved too. They're going after his stepmother, Ashley Cole, saying that she has some sort of, because she's an insider, she's a judge, that she's contributing to a cover-up in this case. I'm sure that a lot of these young people involved aren't getting much sleep at night because, this is a terrifying situation. And think about this. It's possible that there is an actual killer out there. That thought is a bit terrifying too. Even though obviously right now it's looking like this could have been a potential drowning, but as Officer Tatum said, there could have been foul play. So the thought of there being a potential killer out there is just concerning. And I would think that Nolan Wells' mom would turn over the phone too, so that the authorities could make sure that there's not someone else involved. Because they have the resources to interpret different communications on phones than we do. And so they could potentially uncover if there were some message exchanges between Nolan and some other questionable people who could be linked to his disappearance, or his death. I don't think that they're considering that. And I hope that they start.
That they took something so anti-racist and flipped it into something super racist. Like they took, this is the definition of anti-racism. That we did not look at Nolan any different than I looked at him, or even you. This is literally our brother. Like we stated, we did not treat him any different. We didn't treat Trayson any different. We don't treat Trayson any different. And they just flipped it. And I just think that is so wild that they're pushing this thing that they're saying, oh, they want to end racism and all this stuff. Well, they're the one pushing it. They're pushing the racism. And I just think that's kind of crazy.
Morgan, what's your thoughts on this? How does it affect you?
First I want to say wish this would have never happened. I wish Nolan would still be here with us today. And but I in my opinion, I think that the media they shouldn't have pushed a narrative from so early. I think that they should have let the local officials do their job, let them release statements, and then the media is obviously going to see that and then do whatever they do. But that's what I trust the local officials.
Ed,
I agree with him on that as far as, the media shouldn't have rushed to judgment like that, but they know what sells in this country. And if you bring up white and black relations, that's going viral. They knew, Ben Crump is involved. Well, a lot of these media networks have relationships with people like Ben Crump and Al Sharpton. They know them personally. That's why Ben Crump and Al Sharpton could make a few calls, and next thing you know, this story goes viral. Because they're connected in the corrupt media.
What has transpired, how does that dictate your response? Because you have a 30,000 foot view of all of this stuff, right? You see the way that it could have went, and you see that there's people that instigated the narrative that's out there now. And as a defamation attorney, how does this navigate your tactics?
Sure. And I want to be clear about something tonight. I'm not going to give any particular person any more oxygen than they may have already sucked up. But I will say this. What's been said about Morgan, Jax, and Warren, I'm not going to call them untruths or half-truths or falsehoods. I'm going to call it what it is, lies.
Wow.
So the first thing that's really important here is we're dealing with lies and liars. We're dealing with profiteers. We're dealing with hustlers. And one thing that I've seen since I got here is that Ocean Springs, Mississippi, is a really beautiful place. And the region is very beautiful. It's one of the most beautiful places in the country. And there is just no question. The death of Nolan Wells is a horrendous tragedy. But for the tragedy to then be magnified after his death for no reason other than profit is a disgrace, or what we would call a shanda. And I had the opportunity to go to Horn Island today with Tyler and Warren and Jax. And a lot of people who have been sucking up way more oxygen than they're entitled to have not been to the island.
I mean, that's pretty obvious. That's pretty obvious. I don't think that. I don't even think Ben Crump has been to the island. And isn't he supposed to be the lawyer who's representing Nolan Wells' family? I don't even think he's taken the time to go there for himself and really see, okay, what is this island really like? Could it be possible that Nolan drowned? He hasn't taken time to do that because that doesn't fit his agenda. And he's going to end up paying for it.
I'm willing to bet that a lot of the hustlers and profiteers and liars have not been to that island. And you have to go to that island. And being at the island today was revelatory. It was really illuminating. It's a very dynamic marine environment, first of all. But when you go to the island, you see instantly that what some people want to be true, what they wish to be true, they're trying to wish it to be true. They're trying to make it true through their lies. It's actually not possible.
Wow.
It is a very, very long and narrow barrier island. It's basically very low sand dunes. And in the particular part of the island that we're dealing with, there are no trees. It's hardly any foliage, hardly any tree cover, hardly any plants, and it's wide open. And on July 4th, there were thousands of people there. There is no possible way that anybody could have committed a murder in broad daylight on a barren, windswept island that is narrow and was just swamped with people that day in broad daylight. It's just not possible given the natural environment there.
Wow. Now that really changes things. And I didn't hear that the first time I listened to this. Maybe I didn't listen up until this point. But wow. So could that potentially rule out foul play entirely if what the lawyer is saying here is true? What do you all think about what he's saying here? Because what I'm hearing him say is that there's no way that a murder was committed. So even that idea, even the thought of Nolan maybe being involved in some sort of fist fight or some sort of whatever you want to call it, isn't even possible. Wow. I wonder how Don Lemon is going to spin this one.
And that leads me to the next point, which is this. Once you know what the timeline is, when you combine the timeline with the actual dynamics of the island itself, all of the lies completely unravel because it isn't possible. And here's why.
Wow, that's really interesting.
Morgan, Warren, and Jax left the island at about 4:30 p.m. That's it. They were gone. That is not open for debate. So that's a fact. They were gone. And at that time, Nolan Wells was still alive. Now, I'm not going to name them out of respect for their privacy, but just as one example, there are two very fine, upstanding members of the Ocean Springs community who saw Nolan Wells at about 10 minutes to 6 p.m.
Wow.
So about an hour and a half after these fine young men had left the island, they were gone, departed. Nolan Wells was alive. And these two witnesses, two very reliable, very credible, and very upstanding members of the community, they saw Nolan. And they've known Nolan for years. There's no chance that they made a mistake. And by the way, this can be corroborated through other evidence, other eyewitness accounts. And that's the end of it right there. That's before we get into everything else about the situation.
Wow.
And there's
Wow. I mean, am I surprised? Not really. But it's just like this adds another level of credibility to what we've already been hearing from the authorities, what we've been hearing from Officer Tatum, what we've been hearing from different people who have been presenting the facts in this case. Even what we've been hearing from Nolan Wells' friends. I mean, wow. That's new. They heard from someone who saw Nolan at least around 6 p.m., an hour and a half after these young men had left. I want to know, Christine Wells, is she really dedicated to hearing the truth about what happened? If she is, she may need to reach out to these young men. She may need to reach out to their parents because they could probably tell her things that Ben Crump can't tell her. Ben Crump is not from Mississippi. Al Sharpton is not from Mississippi. They need to lean on their community. They need to really get answers from the people who were involved. Don't judge the young men based off of one conversation you had with them right after you thought your son was missing. Emotions were high. The Wells family was freaking out, understandably, because they thought their son was missing. When you're in a high emotional state like that, you can misinterpret what you're experiencing. Is that fair? It's easy to do that. And so that's why I'm saying maybe the Wells family should give these young men a second chance. Hear them out. It's not too late. I don't think it's too late. I mean, it could possibly be too late, actually, because their lawyers are involved now. I hope it's not too late. But it could take the Wells family a long time to figure out what happened if they don't sit down and talk to his friends.
When I look at this, I feel like there's levels of defamation and areas of defamation. And I'm not going to speak on your behalf because this is y'all's story to tell, your story to litigate. But which areas are the most egregious that you are going to go after, or that
That's
you
a good
guys
question.
think also are areas where people have taken this situation and clearly lied to the public? One being the phone call. What is your thoughts on that phone call to Cito? Some people have gone out and done enhancements to the audio, and in doing that, created a transcript manually. It doesn't appear that the transcript was derived from an automated system or have any, in my opinion, real integrity with it. What are your thoughts, first, you guys, on the audio, and then I'll get to you, Ed, on could that be a defamatory area?
All right. So that's he leaves us off on a cliffhanger there. We'll have to watch his next video. And Officer Tatum will be joining us on Friday. So be on the lookout. I'm excited to welcome Officer Tatum to the Tamera and Nealy show. Now, the question remains, what happened to Nolan Wells? I mean, this interview really leaves me with more questions like, wow. I think, first of all, I'm glad that Brandon brought their lawyer on, because he really shed light on this whole case that I haven't heard from anyone else. What do y'all think about it? Now, I want to highlight this comment because I see you all commenting in the chat. Let me pull it up. Marcel, come on to the front. Seems like you have a lot to say tonight. Marcel says Black Lives Matter and y'all gonna pay. What does that mean, Marcel? What does that mean? You're mad because people are telling the truth. You're mad because we're saying, let's look at the facts. You're mad because people like Officer Tatum are saying, we're not going to let you paint this story about race if there's no racism involved. Now, if there was genuinely racism involved, then we would be covering it like there's racism involved. However, this case is not about race. Nolan's friends were hanging out with him this entire time with no issue. Nolan Wells is seen in multiple photos with his friend. So please tell us what you're talking about here, Marcel. Because what you're saying does not make sense. If you're going to come over here and you're going to share your, and you're going to have a conversation, be real about it. Let's look at all the facts. Let's not focus on simply emotion, because emotion will cloud your judgment. And the facts are not showing that Nolan's friends did anything wrong. Some people need to watch what they say, because when you say stuff like y'all are going to pay, that can come off as a threat. That can come off as if you're targeting people. What are you going to do to us? What are your plans, Marcel? Because right now, you're looking a little bit suspicious. Right now, it's looking like something's a bit off. Like somebody said, maybe you need to be added to the lawsuit. That's what I'm thinking. Maybe you do need to be added to the lawsuit. Bottom line, watch what you say, because we might actually have time to address it. Now, I want to shout out everybody who has been supporting the channel. Thank you so much for all the jewels in the love and support. It's people like you who keep this channel going. Make sure you hit the like button, subscribe button, join the conversation below. I want to hear your thoughts on all the topics that we covered tonight. I want to thank you all for watching the channel. Y'all keep this channel going. Thank you so much for all of the jewels and the love and the support. Also, thank you for the super chats. Carolina Grammy says, first of all, thank you for this $5 super chat that says, keep your head high, sister. We are daughters of the Most High God, and no one has authority over us. I'm so sorry you went through that. Amen and amen. Sheesh, my head is held up high, because I know that I'm more than a conqueror, that greater is the one who lives inside of me than he who lives in the world. I know that God provides all that I need, that he gives me power, authority, and a sound mind. That's why when people want to come up on the channel and they want to try to irritate the audience, they want to, to spread lies, we can easily call them out, because we're not going to be silenced. The country is tired of these racist narratives being pushed. The country is tired of division. And the country just wants the truth to come out. And so it's up to people like us to make sure that the facts are being presented. And so I want to thank you again, Miss Carolina, for your super chat. Shout out to all of you for the jewels. Thank you so much. Also, I want to remind you all that we have merch. I've been getting a lot of shirt orders. Thank you all for supporting our merch. As you know, on this show, we believe that prayer is our first resort and not our last. We have men's shirts here in multiple different colors. Men, how are you liking your shirts? I want to know. Let me know. I hope you're liking them. I designed them just for you. I designed these shirts. There will be another merch drop coming soon, so be on the lookout. Ladies, these shirts were made just for you in multiple different colors. Be sure to check out our merch. Now, I want to know what you all think about what we talked about tonight. a lot was talked about, a lot was shared. And this case is continuing to develop. And I'm telling you, every day, it just seems like I'm blown away by the information that's coming out. But I do think that we're getting closer and closer to the truth every single day. I do. And that's why sometimes you got to give things time. Just let it play out. And that's why people like myself and Officer Tatum didn't rush to judgment immediately. We said, you know what? We're going to just let the truth come out as it does, because it's going to come out. In slowly but surely, more information is just coming out. And notice who's being quiet. Notice who isn't saying anything. I haven't heard from Ben Crump in days, it seems like. Have y'all noticed who's been real quiet? Maybe it's because some people are losing the grip on their narrative, which I think could be a good thing. And I'm glad that Nolan Wells' friends are fighting back. This is rare. This is something that we don't see all the time. This is something we don't see all the time. Shout out to April. I see you in the chat. I haven't heard from you in a while. I hope you're doing well, April. Interesting conversations happening in the chat tonight. Now, I want to hear what you all think of this conversation tonight. A lot was said. Like I said, Officer Tatum will be on the Tamera Nealy show on Friday, so be on the lookout for that interview. I'm sure he's going to be bringing us some of the latest bombshell updates, so you're not going to want to miss it. And I see you, Jane. I see you asking if it says, let me pull up Jane's comment really quick. She says, Sister Tamera, could you please try to get a long sleeve t-shirt? Thank you. Yes, I will get that long sleeve t-shirt for you. I know that fall is coming, winter is coming, and so definitely we will make that happen. I'm loving seeing you all excited for Officer Tatum to be here on Friday. Looking forward to his interview. It's going to be a good one. And let's remember to stay focused on the facts. There are going to be people who talk, who have a lot of things to say. But you know, something that I notice is something that I notice is they're just upset because we're winning. They're upset because the truth is prevailing. April, yes, Officer Tatum will be joining us. Looking forward to having him. Looking forward to it. So, but that's all they're mad about. And so we must continue. I can't kick every barking dog. You know how many people, you know how many dogs are barking. You know how many people get upset. I can't kick every barking dog. I want to stay youthful. I want to look youthful. And I'm not about to be frowning and upset every 5 seconds. Sometimes you just got to let people talk. Because at the end of the day, they're just mad. They're mad because they're miserable in their life. People talk. Absolutely. I'm loving seeing your support in the chat. So many people are in here, over 700 people, almost 800 of you in here tonight. Thank you for joining this evening. Yep. As Donna said, the Lord has your back. Don't worry. I'm not worried. Let them talk. Because I already know what's going on. Like, I laugh at it at this point. I laugh. Because I know what's up. That's when you know you're having an impact. That's when you know. I'm just looking at the chat. I rarely have time to actually. I rarely get a chance these days to just kind of observe some of the comments, and because obviously I'm focused on the work and throughout the show. But we're at the end of the show now, so it's like, you know, might as well just kind of look a little bit. Interesting comments. Interesting comments. Blue-eyed Bandit says, "Thank you for your calm, inquisitive discussion." Am I single? Just call me solo. Asks, "Am I single?" Yes, I'm single. So I kind of talked about this earlier today because it came up in discussion when I was talking about my first topic that I covered, which was like this afternoon. And I was talking about how I dressed in, I got dressed in this really nice blue dress and went to a very fancy restaurant this past weekend. And I went alone. I was dressed to impress though, because I am single, ready to mingle, a conservative girly. Okay. So if you're wondering, I am. Who knows? My friend told me, he was like, you could meet your husband, he could be watching your show. So I've learned to be open. Noah said she's blushing again. Y'all are too funny. Melissa says, I can't marry until I'm 35. Why? Why do I gotta wait so long? I'm not trying to be 35. I want to have kids. I want to have children. I'm just saying. And so 35 is, I know there are women who have children at 35, but I'd like to get started sooner rather than later. I love kids. So, do I ever take communion on the channel? No. Oh, thank you. Just call me solo says, I think you're a Proverbs 31. I might need to find you. Oh, well, I do have social media. I do have an email, just saying. All of my links are in the show description. So, y'all are too sweet. Yep. See, Tom tells the truth, says solo date. That's good. Let them find you. Absolutely. I was just kind of talking to my friend about this. Like, it's not enough to go to the gym, because I go to the gym weekly. I love working out, taking care of my health and fitness and all that stuff. And that's great. But that doesn't mean much if you're not, showing up and showing out. You need to go places where you can be found. And so that's why I'm like, let me go to where the people I want to be with, the type of men I want to be with more than likely are. So I'm trying to be selective. I'm trying to make sure that I'm using my time wisely. Trust me, I'm not going to dinner at McDonald's trying to find my future husband or be found by my future husband. I'm going places where I think he may be. And who knows, maybe my future husband is watching this video now. And if so, just saying, Top is kind of going by. Don't be afraid to reach out. Lorraine said, allow God to place the right person in your life. God, in the mighty name of Jesus, knows best. Absolutely. I know he does, and God's timing is perfect. His timing is perfect, and I hope that each and every young lady who watches this channel knows that. Always be found working. That's the working on yourself, developing who you are. When Ruth was found by Boaz, she was in the field working. And so there's always something to focus on, to help other people, to help yourself, to grow. And so having a good balance is good. Charles says, I've been watching. Single, cute, nice, smart, and a Christian chick. Wow, very nice. I also want to know, do you all have any questions for Officer Tatum? I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to, before his interview in the community tab, I'll probably make a post, and please be on the lookout for this. I don't want to do it now because I can't really take the time to screenshot what you all are saying now. I want to be organized about this, but just be on the lookout for a post in my community tab asking you all if you have any questions for him. And who knows, maybe your question will be picked. Another love says, take your time, Tamera. Enjoy life while you're young. I'm enjoying I'm enjoying it every step of the way. And then another love says, I had my youngest at 35. That's a blessing. God bless you. My grandmother had children all the way up until she was probably almost 40, and she had 10 kids. So I know it's definitely possible. I just prefer to have, it'd be nice to start in my 20s. Just saying. I believe it. Thank you. Win and Walk with Chris says, you're beautiful and intelligent. Your man of God is coming. Amen and amen. One of my friends, I was hanging out with her and her husband this past weekend, and she was telling me, she was like, marriage is wonderful. And I was like, I love to hear that. That's awesome. Noah says he got to pass our test though, Tamera. Y'all need him. Trust me. Trust me. Somebody says, so this is a dating content, all have fun. Hey, this is an everything content. On my channel, we talk about lifestyle, we talk about politics, we talk about what's happening in society. That was something that was really important to me when I created the Tamera Nealy show. My whole goal was for people to know that they're not alone. And so I like to have conversations that aren't had on the day to day. And, God leads me in different directions at different times. And I kind of said that when I first started this show, like I go and, I'm going with the flow, and I'm open to different conversations. And sometimes you got to have conversations that the world isn't having. Because when you think about it right now, the world is telling young women to hate men. The world is telling young women to not aspire to be wives. The world is telling young women that all men are bad. And I don't believe that's true. I believe that there are very good, strong, masculine, godly men in our world, and they deserve to be uplifted. They deserve to be desired. And they should be desired. And so I'm never going to stop being myself, and I talk about whatever God puts on my heart or whatever I want to on this channel. Thank you for your comment. Y'all are sweet. Amen. God is the best matchmaker. My dentist said this. He said, enjoy your 20s, have kids in your 30s. He said that probably 5 months ago when I went to see him. He waited until he was a little older and he didn't have any regrets. So thank you for the advice. Like I said, I'd like to start having kids in my 20s if I can, but God knows what's best. Mm. Of course, evenly yoked. Oh, Melissa says, I think you were gorgeous. So I have I have to feel a little protective of you. Well, I appreciate it. Are you blushing, Tamera? It's possible. I can't help it if I am. Is it really that noticeable? Come on, y'all. Marcel in the comment section again talking about you want a white man or a Tatum. I want whoever God has for me. Whether he be white, black, Mexican, or whatever. But let me let you know something. I'm not going to be upset if my husband is white. What's wrong with that? Imago Dei, we're all made in the image of God. And so if my husband is white, he's a blessing just as much as if he was another color. Why is race so important to you? Why do you fixate on that? It should be about your values, about your purpose. Does this person love you? Does he support you? I've dated white guys in the past and they've been super loving. So what's your point of saying that? It's just weird. Please stop. Somebody says God gave me a wonderful man when I totally let go and let him. Amen. It's a good place to be. Melanie, thank you so much for these jewels. I appreciate it. I don't know what jewels do. Somebody asked that. I'm not sure, but I appreciate all of it. Oh, Charles said, Tamera, you are definitely glowing tonight. Thank you. Yeah, this is a good point. Girl Soul 11 says everyone is different, Tamera, and hormones can start fluctuating in your 30s, making it difficult to get pregnant, so younger is always better. I mean, that's what I would think. I know that it's possible for women to still have children in their 30s, but like you said, I do agree that if you can have them younger, why not? I just want to kind of show some of your comments. Carla says she's glowing. Thank you. Somebody said block him. I think y'all are probably talking about what is his name? Marcel. Marcel, you know, I think that even my enemies need to hear the truth too. You know, the Bible talks about he'll make your enemies your footstools. And their view is just as important as yours. And so, you know, keep watching the channel. You're keeping us on air. So thank you for your support. Thank you for commenting. Thank you for being a little nuisance in the chat. Hopefully you learned something. Because there's a lot of good people in here telling you the truth, whether you want to hear it or not. And I hope you'll open your ears and hear a different perspective. Interesting comment. All right. Well, I think I've kind of gotten to quite a few of them. I want to thank you all for your love and support. Let me make sure I got to all the super chats and Jules. Thank you so much for all of the love. Thank you everyone for joining tonight. Be sure to hit the like button, subscribe button, join the conversation below. I want to know what you all think about these updates. Nancy Grace could be facing Nolan Will's friends in court. That's a possibility. Also, Nolan Will's mother finds herself in another pickle because the truth is coming to light. She has not turned over his phone to the authorities. Why is that? What's really going on with the phone? Is there something on the phone that she's afraid for the authorities to see? I have so many questions about that. Also, Officer Tatum has gone back to Horn Island, and what he discovered is very revealing. I want to know what your thoughts are about it. I love you all. Thank you for watching. Be sure to hit the like button, join the conversation below. I love you, and you'll hear from me soon. Talk to you later. Love you.